Hi, I'm Kat, and today we are talking about a true crime case. I will also be doing my makeup at the same time, and I also have the word in Romanian for you. So the word for today is brutal. 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 Well done, guys, you just said brutal. And I just have to tell you before we get started, this is a really hard case to talk about. So just a trigger warning from the beginning. It involves abuse which led to a baby's death. And the video was actually suggested by Samantha, one of my YouTube subscribers. So thank you so much, Samantha, for suggesting this. 33 years ago, a baby was found dead in Miami Beach, and the mother, accused of the horrific crime, still maintains her innocence to this day. Lazaro Figueroa was born on September 18, 1987 to Ana Maria Cardona and Fidel Figueroa. Ana also had two older children. Fidel Figueroa was a well-known drug dealer, and he died under mysterious circumstances on 20th of September 1987, and in fact this crime still remains unsolved. In November 1990, Lazaro Figueroa's body was discovered in front of a beach property in Miami Beach. He had been severely battered, which made it initially very difficult for authorities to identify him. Because Lazaro's remains were unidentified for weeks after his discovery, local news outlets nicknamed him Baby Lollipops in reference to the shirt he was found wearing. The cause of death was later determined to be a blow to the head from a baseball bat. Trial evidence showed that shortly after leaving Lazaro's body in the bushes, Ana Maria Cardona and her lover, Olivia Gonzalez, fled to Central Florida, even making a stop to Disney World. And I really wish I could tell you all sorts of wonderful and fun things about Lazaro, but sadly I can't. I wish I could tell you all the stuff that he loved to do, all the places he got excited of visiting, all the toys and games that put a smile on his face, but sadly I can't. I wish I could tell you that Baby Lollipops was once a happy, inquisitive and amazing baby, loved by everyone around him, but sadly I can't. There is not one photo I could find of him which could show his radiating smile. There's not one account of anyone who knew him that could tell us about how he was like in his short life. There is absolutely nothing, which is just heartbreaking. From what I can tell, however, Baby Lollipops had a short life filled with sorrow, suffering, disappointment after disappointment, endless nightmares, and towards the end, I hope, peace. I have to warn you, I'm probably going to get really mean throughout this video. I don't think that I'll be able to hold my comments to the end, so you know what? Mean Cat is out of the bag. In the decades since she was convicted of torturing and murdering her 3-year-old son and sentenced to death, Ana Maria Cardona has been trying to clear her name. I don't even get in what world she thinks that she actually has the right to do that, but you know, here goes. She has been trying. I guess it sucks living with all that guilt. Long before the state presented any evidence against her, the media vilified her as the crime she allegedly committed was one of the most brutal in Miami's history. She was a monster, they said. She and her lesbian partner killed her son and abandoned his dead body near their home. What first appeared to be a case of child abduction and murder was one of parental neglect, torture, and psychopathic disregard for the health of a baby boy. All of South Florida was captivated. The story unfolded on the pages of newspapers and on an episode of America's Most Wanted. It's a crime that haunted South Florida for decades. On 2nd of November 1990, two Florida Power and Light employees were working in the wealthy Miami Beach neighborhood of La Gorce around 8:30 a.m. when they made a discovery. Under the cherry hedge between a house's driveway and the garden wall, Lying in a pile of grass and leaves was the dead body of a little boy wearing only a diaper and a t-shirt with lollipops across the front. His body was discovered in the yard of the home. Following the discovery of the body, it took over a month to identify the baby. Unable to identify him initially, officers called the boy Baby Lollipops after the t-shirt that he was wearing. It took more than a month for investigators to learn Lazaro's identity and track down the two women. Their big break came when a neighbor who had occasionally cared for Lazaro recognized him from police flyers. Eventually, the investigation led Miami Beach detectives to Maria Cardona, who had moved with her other two children and her companion to a motel in Osceola County. Lazaro was just 3 years old. He had been starved and beaten, his soiled diaper wrapped to his body using brown packing tape. The medical examiner said that when the diaper was removed, it was so caked with the baby's excrement that it was like removing a cast. A blunt object fractured his skull. There was a cigarette burn on his left cheek and dozens of other injuries, including broken bones, broken teeth, and bed sores from being tied to a mattress for long periods of time. His left arm had been broken months before, an injury so severe that rather than healing, the nerves died and the muscles calcified into bone. A painful process that lasted months, and he was only 3 years old. It was determined that this baby boy was tortured for around a year and a half. At the time of his death, he weighed only 18 pounds or 8 kilograms. No one understood how it was possible. A toddler tortured this way and his parents nowhere to be found. Local channels ran specials urging parents to teach children about stranger danger, reminding them of children kidnapped in department stores and supermarkets. Whoever killed this baby had to be a monster. A few weeks later though, everything changed. It turned out that baby Lollipops had a mother and siblings as well. His real name was Lazaro Figueroa, born on September 18, 1987. They found Lazaro's mother, Maria Cardona, her partner, Olivia Gonzalez, and two other children living in St. Cloud, Florida. Maria Cardona was born in Havana, Cuba, to a poor single mother who was often abusive. Before Ana arrived in Miami, she had a difficult life under the Castro regime. She had been sexually assaulted when she was 10 years old. As a teenager, she tried to kill herself several times, and by the time she was 16 years old, she was using drugs, drinking, and having sex on the streets. Her whole family died in Cuba, and she only had her children in her life. But side note though, okay, a big one, none of the things I just mentioned from her younger life justifies what she did to her own child. And I really do hate people who are blaming childhood traumas on a killer's behavior. Yes, agreed, it can explain certain things, but there is no way in hell that it can justify a mother torturing her baby for more than 1 year before killing him. If anything, take example from your own childhood and learn to do better for you and your children. So, okay, anyway, for the sake of the video and me trying to give you all the background info, although this woman, she just doesn't deserve it, I will carry on. She ended up going to the US in 1980 during the Mariel boat lift. She was 19 years old, alone and pregnant, and she supported herself with sex work. She lived on the streets for some time. She had 2 children, and then she met Fidel Figueroa. Fidel was a successful drug trafficker in Miami, and very soon Ana started using cocaine, and before she knew it, she was addicted to it. I mean, what a surprise there, right? Fidel made enough money to support her and her children, and the family lived quite well actually. After years of poverty and struggle, Fidel's drug money provided a life like Ana never imagined. A maid, a penthouse apartment, expensive cars, and so on. In 1985, she had another child, a girl, and then she got pregnant with Lazaro. Ana Maria Cardona, Fidel, their 2-year-old daughter, and Ana's 7-year-old son lived in an upscale apartment, and they actually maintained quite a lavish existence. The month before Lazaro was born, however, Fidel was murdered. He was gunned down. Fidel left a $100,000 estate, which Ana quickly wasted on drugs, alcohol, and parties. During this time, her children sometimes lived with babysitters. Ana would leave the kids with a babysitter for weeks and even months at a time. Lazaro and his sister also lived with friends and relatives. Lazaro and his sister were eventually turned over to the Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services. I'm not sure about the older boy, however. The children were removed from her care until social services could determine whether Ana could care for the children. According to medical records, when Lazaro was 11 months old, he was really healthy and he weighed about 20 pounds or 9 kilograms. And I guess that, you kind of already know what happened, right? Of course, that social services, at one point in November 1988, they determined that Ana could look after them herself. Not. So, of course, that the children were returned to the custody of their mother. It's so funny, but actually it's not really funny how social services work, isn't it? You take away children from families that can take care of them, but then you return children to parents who are clearly unfit to take care of them. How does it make sense? I have no idea. I have no idea in which person's deluded mind anything like this makes sense. Now, moving on. So, Ana met Olivia Gonzalez Mendoza at a nightclub in Miami Beach in March 1989. Ana was attractive and confident, who partied too much, drank too much, and used cocaine. Olivia was just smitten. I mean, what a perfect partner to be smitten with, right? After the children were returned to her, Ana became romantically involved with Olivia. Eventually, after the money that Fidel left was all gone and the cars were gone, Ana was evicted from her luxury apartment and she found herself on the streets yet again. But this time she had 3 of her 4 children with her. Lazaro, baby Lollipops, was 18 months old. With no other place to go to, Ana and her children moved in with Olivia Gonzalez. While Olivia was at work, Ana was home with the kids. Perfect plan, perfect setup, right? When the 2 older children were in school, Lazaro was home alone with his mother. Ana and her children lived with Olivia in a series of cheap hotels. Olivia had various jobs and shoplifting were the women's only sources of income. During an 18-month period that began after the children were returned to her, Ana beat, choked, starved, confined, emotionally abused and systematically tortured Lazaro, or baby Lollipops. The baby spent much of the time tied to a bed, left in a bathtub with the hot or cold water running, or locked in a closet. To avoid changing Lazaro's diaper for as long as possible, Ana would wrap duct tape around his diaper to hold in the excrement. Ana blamed Lazaro for her fall from riches to rags and referred to him as bad birth. Later on, Olivia would testify that the couple and the children moved from place to place, from one apartment to the next, from motel rooms to friends' houses, to trailers and back again. I mean, what can I say? What a great life for the kids, right? In each of these places, according to Olivia, Lazaro was always either locked in the bedroom, bathroom, closet, or strapped down to the bed. If he moved, disobeyed, or cried, his mother would beat and choke him. He was barely ever fed or bathed or changed. They used packing tape to keep his diaper on for days at a time and to hold in the waist. Lorenzo Pons, who allowed them to live in his trailer, said that he saw Ana beat Lazaro with a shoe He was being kept locked in the bedroom or strapped to the bed, while the other children were allowed to roam freely and to play outside. Sandra Ruggles, who worked at one of the hotels where the family stayed at one point, said that she saw Anna beat and drag Lazaro by his left arm on more than one occasion, the same arm that had been broken so badly that the elbow fused at a 90-degree angle. Now, you tell me, how can Anna say that she's innocent? Carla Ventrano, who lived at the same hotel as them for a time, described how Lazaro was kept strapped to the bed, how his mother punched him and pulled his hair. And now, my question really is, if all of these people witnessed and knew what Anna was doing to Lazaro, why the hell did no one do anything to stop it? How do you have the heart to hear and see and just do nothing to stop it? How? How can you do that? Olivia was also aware of the abuse on Lazaro, and she even began to participate in the abuse because, of course, it pleased his mother, Anna. According to Olivia, on the last day of October 1990, Anna severely beat Lazaro with a baseball bat. After splitting the baby's head open, Anna locked Lazaro in the closet where he had been imprisoned for the last 2 months. The next day, Olivia opened the closet door and tried to keep Lazaro quiet by frightening him with the bat. When Lazaro began to scream at the sight of his mother, Anna grabbed the bat from Olivia. Olivia then, guess what she did? She just left the room. When she returned, Anna told her that she believed she had killed Lazaro. After dressing the baby, Anna and Olivia took him to a Miami Beach residence and abandoned him in some bushes where he was later found. When Anna found out that Lazaro's body was found, she and Olivia fled to the Orlando area and then to St. Cloud, where they were later arrested. Anna told police various stories about what had happened to Lazaro. Finally, she claimed that Lazaro had fallen off the bed and just injured himself. When she couldn't revive him, she took him to a Miami Beach residence and left him on a doorstep so the people who owned the house could help him. Olivia actually confirmed these stories. So, another question that I have is, if really Anna wanted to save Lazaro, then why not just, call 911? Why not take him to a hospital, go to a neighbor, ask for help? This is just completely bull, in my opinion. Both women were charged with aggravated child abuse and first-degree murder. Olivia eventually admitted her role in the abuse, pled guilty to second-degree murder and aggravated child abuse, and agreed to testify against Anna. According to Dr. Bruce Haima, the medical examiner, Lazaro did not die from one particular injury. Rather, he died from months of child abuse and neglect. When 3-year-old Lazaro was found, he was emaciated, weighing only 18 pounds. His diaper was really heavily soiled. It had been wrapped repeatedly with a duct tape. He had numerous and extensive physical injuries, some of which were recently inflicted and some of which were up to a year old. It was impossible to date many of the injuries because of their nature, such as injury on top of injury. Most of the injuries would have caused prolonged, excruciating pain. Due to repeated injury, the muscle between the elbow and shoulder of Lazaro's left arm had turned to bone, rendering the arm useless. He had deep bruises on his left hand and palm that were consistent with defensive wounds. His right forearm was fractured in a manner also consistent with a defensive wound. His left leg, which was much thicker than the right, was engorged with blood. His feet and toes also had extensive deep bruises. Some of his toenails had been crushed. There were other deep blunt trauma bruises to his chest and to his buttocks. Lazaro's left eye was bruised and there was a laceration on his right eye. There were cigarette burns on his cheek and pressure sores all over his body from being forced to lie in bed for extended periods of time. The inside of his lips was obliterated by scar tissue and his front teeth had been knocked out. There were lacerations to the scalp, the most recent of which was an open, festering wound that allowed meningitis bacteria to invade his brain through a skull fracture. The blow that caused the fracture also crushed his olfactory nerve. A later blow to the head sheared the nerves connecting the spinal cord to the rear of his brain. According to the medical examiner, although this injury was fatal, Lazaro was already dying from his other injuries at the time the final blow was inflicted. Lazaro Figueroa died from child abuse and neglect. Lazaro didn't die from one particular injury. He was physically abused over months of time. He was also neglected over months of time, resulting in malnutrition and anemia. He was physically abused to the point of having irreversible brain damage, which eventually hastened his death. The final injuries to his brain were not even necessary to cause his death. They, in and by themselves, they could explain his death. But his death was a culmination of all of his injuries. Lazaro also had an impending meningitis resulting from the prior head injury. Even if he would have survived his most recent head injury, his meningitis would have been fatal had it not been treated. Lazaro was a physically abused and neglected child, and that was the cause of his death. And let's not forget that he was only a 3-year-old baby. Can you just imagine a 3-year-old baby having to lay still on a mattress for days on end without being allowed to make a sound or restricted from moving? Just think about it, how active are 3-year-olds? What was going through that poor baby's mind? Did he ever even feel an ounce of happiness? Dr. Richard Souviron performed a posthumous dental exam and determined that Lazaro had sustained blunt force trauma to the mouth, causing the loss of his 2 front teeth. His body was completely beat up. He looked like he had come from Auschwitz. Maria Cardona told investigators after her arrest that Lazaro hit his head falling out of bed and that she hid his body hoping not to lose custody of her other children. After several hours of interrogation, Olivia Gonzalez told detectives that Maria Cardona had killed Lazaro, and together they dumped the body under the bushes. They were both charged with aggravated child abuse and first-degree murder. During the trial, Maria Cardona's defense argued that it was Olivia Gonzalez who tortured and murdered Lazaro, and that his mother had simply been too strung out to prevent it, that she wasn't in charge of the child during the last few months of his life. Instead, had given control over to Olivia Gonzalez and their babysitter Gloria Pai. Olivia Gonzalez in turn said that Anna tortured her own son and claimed that she was in better spirits when she was using drugs. When Anna wasn't high, the abuse just got worse. On the stand, Olivia said that Anna gave Lazaro cocaine and sprayed him with insecticide for her own amusement. She enjoyed watching him convulse. Olivia admitted that she felt guilty for letting all of this happen, but she said she was afraid because Anna had stabbed her in the hand during one of their fights. But, you know, of course, that we know the story. I didn't do it, she did it, finger pointing, blame shifting, he said, she said, in this case, she and she said. It's never a case of taking responsibility, really. From early in Lazaro's life, Anna often left him in the care of others, as we know already. Sometimes she would drop off her son and not return for several months. Because of this lack of continuity in Lazaro's care, Anna's defense claimed that the systemic injuries were not entirely her responsibility. Further, Anna alleged that Lazaro was not in her care in the weeks and months before his death because she was living in a place where children were not allowed. She said that her girlfriend Olivia had taken Lazaro from her to live with a wealthy friend in Miami Beach, and Olivia forbade her from seeing him again before his death. There are multiple inconsistencies in Anna's account, and she later admitted to seeing Lazaro for his 3rd birthday, which was shortly before he was murdered. The state presented testimony and evidence that Lazaro had in fact been living in the same place with Anna, her other children, and her girlfriend Olivia. Before the trial, Anna's counsel tried to exclude the testimony regarding child abuse syndrome or battered child syndrome. Dr. Haima's autopsy report stated that the cause of death was child abuse syndrome. Anna's defense suggested that a blunt force injury to the head was the true cause of death. The defense argued because their case theory was based on an identifiable discrete fatal injury, it was inappropriate for the medical examiner to opine otherwise, as it negated her defense. The trial court denied Anna's defense motion, concluding that the child abuse syndrome testimony was relevant to prove intent. Dr. Haima stated that the injuries Lazaro sustained since way back in the beginning culminated in his death because they were left untreated. He stated that the brain injuries were the most recent and, if isolated, would be a fatal injury. He further said that the brain injuries would have rendered Lazaro unconscious and brought him to the point of death. When the first trial was over, Ana Maria Cardona was found guilty of first-degree murder, and the judge actually sentenced her to death. Olivia Gonzalez was released in 2008 after only spending 17 years in prison. 10 years after Ana Maria Cardona was convicted, the state's case started to change. Years of appeals, investigations, and depositions by the defense team led to a discovery. In 2002, an appeals court found that the state of Florida withheld evidence from the defense that it should have disclosed. During her interviews with police, Olivia Gonzalez confessed that she lied to investigators that she hit Lazaro on the head with a baseball bat and admitted that the blow was so hard there was a possibility it might have caused his death. There was crucial evidence to support that Olivia Gonzalez killed him. The medical examiner himself originally reported blunt force trauma had been the cause of death. The jury also never heard how babysitter Gloria Pai also confessed to the murder, even though that was because the police determined that her confession was not believable, because the details of her confession were not consistent with the physical evidence. Gloria Pai later recanted. So Ana Maria's conviction was overturned and she was granted a new trial after being 10 years on death row. But after the second trial, she was once again convicted, and in 2011, she was sentenced to death. But she kept on saying that she didn't kill her baby. Yeah, and I forgot to put concealer on. She denied partaking in her son's torture, insisting that she was under the influence of drugs while he was being abused. She refuses to believe that Lazaro would have died anyway, as the medical examiner said during the first trial. She believes that her son would be alive if not for Olivia Gonzalez, who she says abused Lazaro and who during cross-examination admitted that her violence against Lazaro got progressively worse over time. Anna admits that she let this happen while she was strung out on crack cocaine, that she failed to protect Lazaro. She did what she could do to put a roof over their heads, including, she claims, enduring a relationship with Olivia Gonzalez. Okay, so I'm not going to pretend that I know how you are when you are high on cocaine, but I also don't believe for 1 second that Anna was never at some point during those months lucid, aware of what's going on around her. It's impossible for her to be in the same house 24/7 and not see the state of Lazaro if she wasn't the one abusing him. I just don't believe it for a second. And then the other kids were not being abused. During her 4-year correspondence with Rolling Stone magazine, Ana Cardona told journalist Jaquira Diaz again and again that she did not kill her son. She stands by the defense's theory raised during her second trial that Olivia Gonzalez and Gloria Pai were responsible. The defense argued that Olivia had given Lazaro over to Gloria Pai to take care of him and that he had been in the babysitter's care during the last months of his life. In her statement to police, Gloria Pai had given details about the baby's taped diaper, details that had not yet been released to the public. Statements from their landlords that they had not seen Lazaro in the apartment where the family lived, although they had seen the other two children, supported the defense's theory. Ana Cardona says that before her second trial started, she was offered a plea deal. But she refused, as she said she won't sign a paper that says something that she didn't do. Although her newly appointed public defender, Stephen Yermish, would not comment on the deal, according to Ana, if she had pled guilty to a lesser charge, she would have been sentenced to 20 years. With the year she had already served, she might have been out of prison by 2012. Yet, instead of admitting guilt, she has taken her chances. Going back to court, she could be found not guilty, or she could once again be sentenced to death. She weighed those options and she decided to take a chance. Ana says that to her, proving her innocence to her surviving children is more important than her freedom. Ana Maria Cardona has 3 other children, all adults now, who she hopes to have a relationship with if she gets out of prison. Any other person, she says, would have taken the 20 years, but she wants her children to know the truth. She maintains that she did not kill her baby. Yeah, I'm sure she didn't. Allegedly, in my opinion. So, just to recap, Ana Maria Cardona was twice sentenced to death in 2 previous trials. After her first trial in 1992, she became the first woman in Florida history to be sentenced to capital punishment for killing her own child. But both convictions were overturned by the Florida Supreme Court, leading to the 3rd trial. In 2002, Anna's initial sentence was overturned due to a Brady violation by the prosecution team, who failed to allow defense attorneys access to interviews with Olivia Gonzalez, and the Florida Supreme Court granted her a second trial. At the second trial, in 2010, prosecutors focused their attention on Lazaro's physical condition and the abuse he had suffered at the hands of his mother. In the second trial, a mentally handicapped 14-year-old girl, who we know as Gloria Pai from Miami Beach, the babysitter, provided a detailed confession of throwing Lazaro against a wall. As a result, Ana Maria Cardona's legal defense team attempted to shift the blame of Lazaro's murder from Ana to this girl. During the trial, though, Gloria Pai retracted her confession and maintained that she was innocent, emphasizing that she had never cared for or even met Lazaro, when the defense said that in the days leading up to his death, Gloria was looking after him. The jury requested that the confession be reread during their deliberation for the verdict. However, the jurors discounted Gloria's testimony because there was not enough evidence to suggest that Lazaro ever stayed at her house. State prosecutor Kathleen Potler described the confession as a diversionary tactic used by Anna's defense team. I'll be right back! Miami-Dade jurors again found Ana Maria Cardona guilty of the 2 counts, and in 2011 she was sentenced to death a second time. State Attorney Catherine Fernandez-Randall stated, quote, "Almost 20 years later, a second jury heard the evidence and has come to the same conclusion. The truth still remains the truth," end of quote. While reading her sentence, the judge, Humberto Diaz, stated, quote, "Ana Maria Cardona, you have forfeited your right to live. Lazaro was tortured to death," end of quote. In December 2017, Circuit Judge Miguel M. de la O immediately sentenced Ana Maria Cardona to a life prison sentence. Prosecutors opted not to seek the death penalty a third time. The judge told Ana Maria Cardona, quote, "I don't think you will be meeting Lazaro in the afterlife. Your actions were monstrous. My mind recoils at the hellish existence you put Lazaro through that last year of his life. There are wild beasts that show more empathy for their offspring than you showed Lazaro," end of quote.
The state and defense have rested their cases now in the third trial of the baby Lollipops murder case. Twice before, convictions against Ana Maria Cardona have been overturned on appeal. CBS 4's Gary Nelson was in court today and is live at the Metro Justice Building. Gary?
Ana Maria Cardona continued to proclaim her innocence in court today, the final day of testimony, and the defense put two ex-cons on the stand in an effort to bolster her story. Ana Maria Cardona, prosecutors say, presided over the gruesome starvation and beating death of her 3-year-old son, Lazaro Figueroa, in 1990, known as Baby Lollipops for the designs on the T-shirt he was wearing. Cardona continued to insist through an interpreter that she didn't inflict massive injuries, including a broken arm, on her son.
Tenía nada que fuera inapropiado.
He had nothing that was inappropriate.
Cardona is now claiming her lover, Olivia Gonzalez, murdered Lazaro, among other things, smashing his head with a baseball bat. She continues to recant her 1990 statement to police that Lazaro fell off a bed and hit his head, and she dumped his body in bushes on Miami Beach. She told the jurors a statement she gave was coerced.
I answered what he was saying. I repeated what he was telling.
Eso es lo que quería oír y eso es lo que yo quería que le dijera. Eso es lo que quería yo.
That's what he wanted to hear, and that's what he wanted for me to say.
The defense called a former prison mate who testified Olivia Gonzalez admitted during a spat with another inmate to killing Lazaro.
If I hit the baby and the bat was the one killing, then I killed the baby and I killed yours.
And another inmate said Gonzalez got the nickname Lollipop in prison. Her reaction?
I hear her saying that she didn't care. She was the one that hit the boy with the bat.
Prosecutors attacked the credibility of the inmate witnesses, hardened criminals, as Cardona continued to deny killing her son, dumping his body.
Did you leave your son in the shrubbery on North Bay Road?
No.
Now, Olivia Gonzalez did not testify in this third trial. Both the state and the defense apparently believing she carries too much credibility baggage with her. This case will go to the jury after closing arguments are heard tomorrow. We're live in Miami. Gary Nelson, CBS 4 News.
Trial evidence showed that she had other children she did not abuse. The reason for Lazaro's suffering, according to the prosecutor Reed Rubin, was that his father had been a drug dealer who was slain by rivals, and with his death, Ana lost a lavish lifestyle she had been enjoying until then. She became angry and spiteful, and she took it out on an innocent young child who became her personal whipping boy. It escalated more and more. Lazaro died because his mother didn't love him. Ana Maria Cardona testified in her own defense that her female lover, Olivia Gonzalez, was responsible for Lazaro's death. She told the court in Spanish that she didn't kill her son, she didn't torture him, and nobody could love her child more than her. Yeah, I'm sure. She claimed that Olivia Gonzalez had beat her son with a baseball bat after taking him from her home. Trial evidence showed that Olivia Gonzalez and Ana Maria Cardona fled to Central Florida after the baby boy died, even enjoying a trip to Disney World before their arrests. In the third trial in 2017, a neighbor testified, quote, "She closed the door. It didn't appear that any lights were on, but the shower was going and he was screaming. Lazaro was very small, very thin, very frail," end of quote. However, Ana insisted under oath that she didn't inflict significant abuse on her son or break any of his bones. She also continued to recant her 1990 statement that Lazaro fell off the bed and hit his head, causing the tear in his corpus callosum. Instead, she placed the blame on her ex-girlfriend Olivia, insisting that she struck Lazaro with a baseball bat. Defense attorney Steve Yermish said in his closing argument that Anna was a poor mother and may have taken actions against Lazaro that amounted to child abuse, but he said she did not kill her son. Quote, "I can only assume that you are angry at Ana Cardona, and you have every right to be. Ana was a lousy mother. She failed as a mother. But you can't decide this case because you or I or anyone is angry at Ana for her failures. The charge of aggravated child abuse may have been proven. The charge of murder has not." End of quote. Olivia Gonzalez testified in Ana's previous trials but not in her last one. Olivia served 14 years in prison for her role in Lazaro's mistreatment while living with Ana Maria Cardona. She was never charged with killing him. The jury found Ana Maria Cardona guilty of the death of Lazaro Figueroa in 1990, and the court convicted her of first-degree murder and aggravated child abuse for a third time. However, this time she was sentenced to life in prison instead of a death sentence. She had spent 17 years on death row before her verdict was overturned by a higher court because the prosecution had used arguments that improperly inflamed the minds and passions of the jurors.
This morning, Ana Maria Cardona has been sentenced to life behind bars, and the judge in this case calling her actions monstrous. An emotional outburst in Miami-Dade court. Ana Maria Cardona reacting moments after learning her fate just 4 hours after closing arguments. Jurors reaching a verdict in the murder trial of her young son.
As to count 1, first-degree murder, guilty of first-degree murder. As to count 2, aggravated child abuse, guilty of aggravated child abuse.
Your actions were monstrous. My mind recoils at the hellish existence you put Lazaro through that last year of his life.
Her son's battered and bloody body was discovered in the bushes of a Miami Beach home in November of 1990. Detectives first called Lazaro Figueroa Baby Lollipops because of the design on his t-shirt. They didn't know who he was, and it was a brutal murder of a child that shocked South Florida. This was Cardona's third murder trial. She was sentenced to death twice for her alleged role in the little boy's death, but the Florida Supreme Court overturned each of the convictions. She remained silent in previous trials, but took to stand this time, then burst out after the judge handed down her sentence. Cardona adamantly denying that she killed her son, telling the judge that no one knows what she's been through. Cardona blames her former lover, Olivia Gonzalez, for the murder, and so does her defense attorney.
The killing of Lazaro was the independent act of Olivia.
Gonzalez took a plea deal for her role in the child's death, served time in jail, and is now free. Cardona previously said the boy's death was an accident, claiming he hit his head after falling from a bed and she dumped his body. But during the trial, jurors heard from friends and acquaintances who say she constantly starved and beat the boy. Wednesday night, family members remained quiet, but the judge saying the jury got it right.
The jury deliberated for less than an hour before finding Ana Maria Cardona guilty of first-degree murder and aggravated child abuse. She's been convicted twice before of killing her 3-year-old son Lazaro back in 1990. His body was discovered in the bushes outside of a Miami Beach home, badly beaten and weighing under 20 pounds.
You will not be meeting Lazaro in the afterlife. Your actions were monstrous. My mind recoils at the hellish existence you put Lazaro through that last year of his life.
Ana Maria Cardona's elder son, a 37-year-old named Juan Puente, died while also in prison. He was serving a 10-year sentence for burglary, and he died at Gulf Correctional Institution's Annex in February 2018. While in jail in 2010, he was brought to a Miami courtroom to testify on his mother's behalf in an effort to convince a jury to spare her life. Ana Maria Cardona is now 62 years old and she's still very much alive. Baby Lollipops, or Lazaro Figueroa, born on September 18, 1987, would have turned 36-year-old this year if he wouldn't have died such a brutal, horrific death at the hands of a lowlife. only 3 years old, and he still tried to defend himself from the blows that eventually took his life. I truly and sincerely hope that Ana Maria Cardona gets what's coming for her. Personally, I don't agree with the death penalty. Seems to me too easy of a way out. I much prefer life in prison so she can live a long, long life tormented by what she did. As for Olivia Gonzalez, she should still be in prison. For me, 18 years was not fair at all. She not only could have prevented Lazaro's death, but she even participated in the abuse and the disposal of his tiny body, and then she fled. She's just as guilty. What's the most infuriating to me is that Anna still says that she didn't kill Lazaro. I mean, it's quite clear. She did. Maybe she's saying it because she can't get rid of the guilt, which I hope she'll never be able to, or maybe she kept saying it hoping to get out of the death sentence, which she eventually did, didn't she? That would answer my initial question as to why keep fighting trial after trial unless you are innocent. But learning all of the facts of the case, I am more inclined to say that she fought probably to save her own life, and now maybe she's trying to convince herself that she's innocent, or she wants to believe that she is. I mean, whatever, I don't even care. I just hope that her guilt will eat her from the inside every single day of her miserable life. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. This is sadly the very tragic story of baby Lollipops. Take care, stay safe for now, and I will see you in the next video. Please do let me know what do you think in the comment section below. Thanks again, take care, and bye!